It's Budget and Finance.
I can make a motion to accept, subject to audit, the consolidated expenditure report for the month of May 2010, totaling $164,313.01.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Streets, lights, properties?
Budget and
Sure.
finance, and one other observation.
sure.
It's early June. The budget worksheets will be cranked up sometime in mid to late July. So I would ask all of you to start thinking about the budget process. Also to direct the various committees to think about their needs so that we can facilitate the hard work that Pat Hours has to do come late July or early August so we can get ready for the fall. Thank you.
Okay. Streets, lights, properties. Mike.
There are three things on the agenda this evening. First one is the playground inspection we discussed at work session, and at that time I had presented a proposal from a Betsy Caesar, who is a certified playground inspector. The proposal covered the two playgrounds and the ball field for a total cost of $1,750. Several questions, we had a good discussion, several questions came up during the course of it and during our discussion on the work session. And just for the benefit of the record and the public, this is literally an inspection of playgrounds, which is called an audit, and it's done periodically to make sure the equipment is safe and also to prioritize any problems so that they can either be corrected or there can be maintenance scheduled in the future. So it's done periodically for the safety of people using the park and also so we can do planning on the borough's end. Ms. Caesar is a certified professional, and the resume or CV provided, I think, attests to that. She's done quite a bit of work even in Bucks County. The several questions which were raised at work session, I did email with her, and I wanted to touch on those briefly. And Bobby, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at all this, or okay. First question was about breaking out the Pickering ball field if we decided just to go with the two playgrounds, and indeed she did that on the revised proposal, and it comes down to $1,500. That is the least of the audit cost involved here. The second question had to do with the recommended frequency for a municipal playground audit. And what she said was an audit is only done one time on each playground to determine its compliance with the standard of care for playground safety. A playground only need be re-audited if there is a natural disaster, severe vandalism, or you make major changes to the playground itself. Subsequent inspections should be performed on a regular basis as needed. An in-depth inspection, not an audit, but an inspection can be done by her firm at a cost of $250 per playground after the audit is done. And I think this went, I think it was your question, Gerard, about, audit versus inspection. What's the difference in cost? And that's a difference. The inspection can be done more frequently after the audit. The audit is something only to be done if there's a change in the in one of those events occurring. The automobile expense, the question was expenses. It is 5 cents per mile. She lives in Media.
50 cents.
I'm sorry, 50 cents?
50.5 cents per month. Yeah, it's,
I thought we were lucky.
yeah, 50.5.
50, thank you. And she can begin the audit work the week of June 28th. So what we have before us is two sets of proposals, and I'll answer any other questions I can on this based upon her email. But I do know, in looking back through the historical files, that it does not appear we've had audits, true audits done on the playgrounds in some time. I have a caveat for that only because in 2003, it appears that there was one for the basic playground outside here that was directed to the Council Rock School District. And that was for what became the Brian Gregg playground. However, I guess there have been some changes to that as well since then, and we're now 7 years down the road. So that is something which would appear to be appropriate for inclusion at this point. So we're talking about 2 playgrounds and whether or not you want to do Pickering. Pickering has been a source of discussion amongst council and certainly the league with which we have a relationship. There has been the question of the errant foul balls, which I witnessed last weekend. That might be a specific issue that could be addressed and probably would be addressed by an audit. So if we want to go in that direction, we can, or choose to leave that out for now, we can do that as well.
Obviously, after an audit, things are going to be identified. Because we've ordered the audit, don't we take on the responsibility for remedial action? I guess one of my concerns is that remedial action can be somewhat substantial. We already know that the swing set over at the ball yard over the playground near CVS, it doesn't have the correct mulch. I guess my question is there any guideline that says from day one of identifying the problem to day end, you have the responsibility, the accountability to take remedial action? Obviously, my concern is from a budget standpoint because this is the first time we're doing it. And I don't know if you should be answering the question or if Mike has to go back and ask the question, but what is the time horizon from when we find out about a problem to when we have to have it fixed? And are we under contingent liability if we fail to act on that?
We did discuss that, and I think it was just touched on at work session. But if you look at the original proposal of May 26, which included the ball field and the 2 playgrounds, Ms. Caesar on the very first page gives a description of the priority of hazards, and the priority of hazards goes from 1 to 5. 5 being compliance with standards and guidelines, number 1 being a hazard, indicating that the hazard is associated with incidents of death or permanent disability and should be addressed immediately. So I think that would say to anyone, even without training in this field, that if there's a hazard 1 identity, we better rope it off and fix it or take it out or do something, as an example.
Yeah, I think we just have to recognize what our options might be, because absent any kind of a budget in 2010, this could be a significant liability to us, and we just don't know. That's my concern.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the other side of the coin is to be realistic and say that the periodic audit is good to tell us also what the problems are, and in the absence of that, do we expose ourselves?
Sure.
It's a rhetorical question. So to your point about things to be done, I know the estimate for the mulch, I think, was it $40,000 or something that Gilmore gave us? And I did mention that to her, and what she said was, basically, we'll see. That sounds awfully high, and there are some things which can be alternatives to that. So I think when we talk about cost, in the back of our minds, we got that estimate of $40,000. Well, if it turns out that we don't need it at all for certain reasons, there's a $40,000 expenditure we were concerned about. It turns out we don't. So I think it's a balancing of all these priorities we have.
The other observation I'd make is, for the sake of another $200, it might help us better interact with the ball yard folks in terms of the kind of shielding we need at the ball field. I don't think they've come back with an answer yet, and I would be in favor of doing Pickering also.